What's up, everybody? I just wanted to jump on and make this video. I was supposed to make this video last month sometime. I really kind of felt a nudge in my spirit to kind of make this video about this subject matter. And I want to talk about grief. A lot of times we only talk about grief when someone physically dies, but we often don't hear about grief related to non-physical death, right? We only talk about it again as when someone physically dies, but what about when it's a relationship that dies, or someone, maybe their health status declines, or they lose a job, or maybe they get a divorce, or they're no longer best friends with someone. Those situations are losses, and as a result of loss, there is grief. And according to the CDC, this definition says grief is a response to loss, which can be caused by many things that I named, right? Or going through major life changes. People who are grieving may experience complex emotions like feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, anger, or sadness, numbness, or confusion. You may notice changes in your appetite, mood, energy level, or sleep patterns. So I said all that to say, right? Transparent moment. This year, I learned about a very, earlier this year, I learned about a very, very grievous betrayal. And at the hearing of it, y'all, just in all honesty, I was in hands and feet on sight mode because it was so evil. It was so vile. It was so low. It was so calculated. It was so, Stevie Wonder could see it. It was so low down. It was so low, so evil. Stevie Wonder could see it, right? And I just remember having so many emotions because these people put, oh, I love you. It's like, how could you fix your mouth to say I love you and do that to me, right? And one of the individuals even said to me, I meant to hurt you. I was really in hands and feet on sight mode at that point. I meant to hurt you. It was like, oh, okay. Watch this though. And, just going through a whole wrecking ball of emotions that I felt. And, some folk, that knew about it, say, hey, praying for you, what have you. And then some people in the quote unquote fabulous support system. I want to say, by the way, shout out to my support system in all of this, all of that occurred. But one of the things I had learned, sometimes people, they mean well, but yeah, here's the bottom line. People know that, they are to forgive. So now I'm going to segue into forgiveness. People generally know, I'm talking about Christians generally, that you have to forgive. But what we tend to negate is that sometimes forgiveness is a process. And what we also tend to negate is that people often have to grieve in order to forgive, right? Some wounds, the Lord had brought to mind, wounds, right? So think about it. I'm going to compare and contrast, right? Wounds and their healing. Let me compare and contrast. So a paper cut, someone gets a paper cut. Is it going to impede them from going to work that day? No. Is it going to stop them if they got the paper cut at work? Is it going to stop them from working that day? No. What can they do? Hurry up, clean up the paper cut, put a Band-Aid on it, and go about their business. It might have a little sting for a little while, but eventually it's going to heal. Compare that to a C-section wound. Ladies, if you've had a C-section, you've gotten an epidural. So you've got an anesthesia that numbs you from the waist down. You're not getting up to go to work that day. Not only that, your wound, there's a cut, an incision about 8 layers deep. So you've got sutures. The paper cut didn't require any sutures, but the C-section wound did. The hip replacement wound did. The knee replacement wound did. And there are some wounds that not only require stitches, but they require staples because the wound is so deep, or the wound is so, or the scar or the incision is so wide or so long or what have you, that it not only requires stitches, but also requires staples. And I say all that to say that sometimes with wounds, we are quick and we have to be very careful about doing this in church and even outside the church, just in society at large. We are more apt to give grace to the offender and re-wound and further wound the wounded by saying things like this. You have to forgive. You ought to forgive. Oh, nope, because, God forgives us. And Jesus said, if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven. Yep, we know all of that. But we also have to remember, two things can be true at once. We do have to forgive, but we also have to take into account the person is hurting. The person needs to heal. The wounded needs to heal. Yes, the offender needs grace because clearly they didn't care about themselves enough to do such egregious nonsense. But don't go further wounding the wounded and thinking you're helping them heal by beating them over the head with saying they need to forgive. Right now, they need to heal. They know that they need to forgive. Kicker was, I spoke to the individuals, and now I'm gonna segue into, is it okay for reconciliation? Because that's another thing we do, especially in the church. We need to forgive and reconcile, not necessarily. All right. So conversating with, one of the individuals, this was supposed to have been an apology call I'm gathering. And the individual was like, well, I just want to know if we're going to be friends after this. What? It was like, oh, no. Now, mind you, I had compassion for the individual. When, before the phone call got started, I was like, because I always aim to look at, hey, why would a person do something of the such? Why would folks do something, whatever they did? Why would they do it? But at that point, I was just like, yeah, it's a no. And I let the individual know, no, we will not be friends going forward. We will not, because it was so egregious. And instead of you calling and being concerned about how I'm feeling, you wounded me. You sinned against me. And you want to know in a call where you're supposed to be apologizing if we're going to be friends, that let me know everything I needed to know. It further let me know more about that individual, but it let me know. And when it comes to reconciliation, I think one of the greatest determining factors is it safe for you to reconcile with the individual? And by virtue of that line in the phone call that I had with that individual, that let me know that individual is not safe. That individual did not have my healing or my best in heart and mind. So at that point, it was real easy for me to say no. So segue to the word, why I say that. And sometimes it takes time. Not that the person hasn't forgiven, but the person is grieving. And we have to give people time to grieve. And sometimes a conversation about the matter it's not healthy or should occur in the moment. Tempers are hot. Person still needs to calm down. They need to think, they need to process, and we need to allow people time to do that. So I think about Jacob and Esau. Jacob has supplanted his brother yet again, stolen his birthright, and then Esau wants to kill him. And so Jacob flees. And we see this again now. Jacob is older. Genesis chapter 32 and 33. Jacob is older and he wants to make amends with his brother. And so he gets word from his men, hey, Esau he's got 400 men with him. Jacob he's shook. Oh, I wanted to just say sorry to my brother, what have you. He goes out to meet him. Jacob is kind of messed up. He sends his men out first. Him and Rachel in the back with Joseph. I was like, kind of messed up, Jacob. You need to be upfront. But either way, at that point, Esau was ready for reconciliation, and so was Jacob. Jacob was ready to apologize. Esau was already ready and had already forgiven him. So I say all that to say, we need to take that lesson as well at times, depending on the wounding, right? It may take some time for the person to forgive and to consider reconciliation. So I just wanted to say all that. That's the video. Hope it blesses you. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.